Hi, this is Don. Over the last 3 years, I've been dealing with a very serious illness, an extreme and unusual food sensitivity. And quite honestly, I had lost a great deal of weight. I went through 3 cycles of this and thought I was going to die each time, but here I am. And I tried a number of medical specialists. No one could figure out what was going on. Then I tried alternative health practitioners. They were a little more understanding and went into some other areas that hadn't been explored, but didn't have much more success. Really, had just about given up hope about 6 months ago when I discovered a healer. He described himself as a holistic healer with an approach I had never encountered before, and he turned around my situation in about 3 weeks. And then I was eating normally, and I gained my weight back. He basically saved my life. But in the process of searching for a way to cure or heal my illness, I discovered that many other people suffer with various chronic conditions for which they've not been able to be helped by traditional medical means. And it's possible to explore all sorts of alternative health possibilities. It can sometimes get very expensive and very confusing. So for any of you who are going through something like this, or perhaps you know someone, I wanted to kind of share my experiences in hopes that they might be of help to someone. And if this video helps one single person, makes a difference in their life, then it's more than worthwhile. Excuse me. Now, what these various types of illnesses have in common is that they're usually initiated by some sort of trauma in your life. It could be psychological in nature, it could be physical. You could be dealing with a great deal of stress. It could be triggered by exposure to mold or some harsh chemical, a variety of kinds of things. They're often lumped together under what's called limbic system disorders. Your limbic system is a part of your brain that actually deals with traumatic experiences and tries to protect you in the future. So it makes you sensitive to whatever it thinks is a danger to you. Unfortunately, it goes overboard and makes you oversensitive. So, for example, if you were exposed to severe mold, you then may develop a mold sensitivity, and it gets to the point where even the slightest bit of mold will trigger a response. So it ends up being harmful. Or a chemical sensitivity. I've known people who they can't go out in public because any sort of chemical, could be the what's used to wash the floor may have chemicals in it, they will react to. So we've become overly sensitive, and that's often the base of many of these. So the question is, how do you cure them? The medical profession has difficulty with these types of illnesses. And sometimes they don't even believe they exist. They're all in our head. I can tell you from my experience, it was not all in my head. And they go by different names, such as chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal fatigue. Long COVID is sometimes lumped under there, and the various multiple chemical sensitivities. There's just a variety of them that appear to be related. Now, if you are looking for help and you want to kind of jump into the alternative health possibilities, there are many paths to go. And I think typically people want to start with an approach that at least appears scientific, they're a little comfortable with. It's different perhaps from what they've experienced with their doctors, but not that far removed. And so there's a whole field of integrative health or functional health that you can go to. And many of these people have traditional medical backgrounds. They may be MDs, nurse practitioners, chiropractors are very common. And what they've done is gotten additional training in these fields, in functional medicine, for example. Typically, they do a lot of testing to start with, and they'll go far beyond the testing that you would get in a traditional medical practice. But also, these tests are not covered by insurance, but they will get much more data on you, and they will spend a great deal of time with you. They may spend typically when you go into a doctor's office, maybe you get 15 minutes. They will spend an hour or more the first time working with you. But there is a cost. their expenses often are not covered by insurance. So that's the downside. But if it's your health and your life at stake, it may be worth it to you. They tend not to treat with medication or surgery. They frequently will use supplements. Some use herbal medicine, homeopathic remedies, other types of stress-reducing approaches and the like is their typical way of going about it. And I went to these folks, and they were certainly more understanding and accepting of my condition. They thought it was legitimate, but none of them quite had a solution. But at least I felt, there was someone who took me seriously and didn't think it was all I was imagining all this. If you may find help among those types of practitioners for whatever might be ailing you or someone you care about. But if it doesn't work, there are other alternatives that you can go to. In fact, there are some that are specifically designed for these types of illnesses that involve both psychological factors and physical factors. Frequently in medicine, we're treated as if we're made of different parts. And so you go to, a specialist for one part of your body and another specialist for another part of your body. But the reality is with many illnesses, they're complex, and the mind is not separate from the body, and the different body parts aren't separate from each other. It's all one and the same. And sometimes to treat some of these complex illnesses, your whole body has to be treated, including the psychological parts of you. And so one thing that alternative health practice has going for it is they tend to look at you as an entire being, treating you on a physical, psychological, and in some cases you could argue spiritual basis. There are a couple specific programs geared to these kinds of illness patterns that I've mentioned. One is located in the United States. The other is in Great Britain, out of Great Britain. And that's the one that I actually tried for a while. It's called the GUPTA program, G-U-P-T-A, and they've had success working with thousands of people. I found it useful, but by itself it didn't completely turn things around, but I think it was a big help. And I think one thing to remember is everything you try, even if it doesn't fully heal you, it can in some ways be beneficial. So when I finally found something that turned the corner for me, I think what I had done previously contributed to the success of the last approach that I tried. So I don't think, for the most part, these are wasted opportunities. And the GUPTA program works with long COVID, irritable bowel syndrome, adrenal fatigue, Lyme disease is sometimes treated, multiple chemical sensitivities, drug withdrawal, fibromyalgia, pain syndromes, anxiety, panic, burnout, POTS. So they deal with a lot of illnesses, and there are two aspects to it. One is there are a variety of ways to de-stress you, relax you. They use meditation, some breathing activities, but then they do what's called brain retraining, because the idea is you have created a pattern in your brain where you're continually overreacting, or reacting negatively to various stimuli, and your brain can be rewired and retrained, and so they work with techniques to help you to do that. That's the basic approach to it. And they offer you an online program that you can follow at your own pace, but they also have a live seminar or webinar along with that that's included, and then people can go further and get group coaching or individual coaching. So, there's some potential here for that. Then when you there are many other ways you can go. And one of the things I tried is I was experimenting on my own with different healing approaches, reading about them. And I came upon an approach called energy healing. And the basic notion is, just as we have, we have a circulatory system, we have a nervous system, we have an energy system, an organized energy system with different pathways and centers, and that when we become ill, these pathways and this flow of energy gets disrupted or blocked. And so there are various healing methods, some have been around for centuries, that attempt to work with our energy. So most of you are familiar with acupuncture and acupressure, these essentially working with your energy system. Reiki massage, the same kind of thing. I came across